Good there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the city of Harvey. To I guess what is going to be our first of many business to blueprints, as it was titled for entrepreneurs. I just want to make sure I welcome you to the city of Harvey and let you know that we appreciate all of you coming out to this event. I see some of you have found the food over here, so please enjoy. I want to really thank our Economic Development Department, specifically Cesar Suarez, along with SDA, and who else do we have that's we're doing this with? And those are like two other partners, right? And and who's that? That's 4 people. Who is that? DAS, Capital Properties, Community Loan Fund, Huntington Bank, and of course the City of Harvey. So we want to thank all of you for coming, and we hope that you get some value out of this. And we're also looking forward to possibly, of course, doing business with all of you in the future. The City of Harvey has a lot of opportunities available. So if you should choose to take advantage of that, we'd love to see you and work with you in the future. So thanks again for coming, everybody, and I'll turn it over to you, Cesar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for the welcome. So, Mayor, did you want to take it on next and just describe the sequence and anybody else to share? Yeah. We're hosting this together, so I think
absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you everybody for being here. I'm really excited to share the information with you all. The impetus for this was an uptick in folks that we work with really wanting to understand real estate development. We have a number of small businesses that are in spaces that they're leasing. Maybe they want to go out and actually build on land or buy a property and renovate it. So we thought, what better way than to bring some folks who are experts in that field to share with you not only the traditional lending perspective, right? So going to your bank, but also the community development financial institution perspective, so non-traditional lenders, right? That are there to really fill the gap in opportunity-rich areas, right? And then the city of Harvey, right? So that Cesar can talk about how do you actually get a project in front of a village like Harvey and work with an economic development director like Cesar to get that project to come to fruition. So we'll go ahead and share a bit about what the Southland Development Authority does. First and foremost, I want to thank the City of Harvey for having us here, really gracious host, and my colleague Nick for making this great introduction to Cesar. But for you, maybe we wouldn't be doing this event, so thank you so much for that. But we'll go ahead and get started. Please don't be shy. There's sandwiches, there's snacks, water. Help yourself. So the Southland Development Authority is a nonprofit economic development agency that was founded in 2019. Before we get to that though, I will ask if everybody has a cell phone, please feel free to take a snapshot of the QR code. We'll put it up a little bit later. What this does is it really helps us understand the type of programming that our business owners need. So let's say you need help with marketing, you need help with your operations, you need help with HR. We'll be able to build programming to help you. So again, this event came out of many people wanting to know how you actually do real estate development, right? So feel free to take that picture in. In June, from the 27th through the 29th, it's going to be a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're actually having a 3-day conference related to small business development, but also real estate development. And we're going to have a number of investors there, decision makers, business leaders, essentially the who's who of investment and real estate development that you want to be in the same room with. We're going to have our headlining keynote speaker, Damon John, the founder of Fubu and also ABC Shark Tank star, who's going to be giving some awesome remarks. The Friday is going to be more of a awards dinner and luncheon. The Saturday is going to be our day where you'll get to hear from phenomenal speakers. And then Sunday is going to be a deep work day where you'll actually be able to attend workshops and network with a bunch of folks that are like-minded. So feel free to take that QR code If you need more information, please see us. So back to the Southland Development Authority's founding. So we were founded in 2019 to be a hub of resources, right, that can be disseminated throughout the Southland region. We cover 45 municipalities. Just because you're not in those 45 municipalities doesn't mean that we can't help you. We work with folks throughout Cook County, more broadly. We also work with folks throughout the state of Illinois. How we help. So this refers to our team, which is the Business Growth Services Unit. There are many divisions and lines of business within the Southland Development Authority. We help folks with real estate development. We help local municipalities on their economic development projects. We're also building a loan fund to help make investments in residential, commercial, and industrial properties. We have a land bank. So our land bank goes out and takes abandoned and vacant properties and tries to get them back in productive use, right? So we help many entrepreneurs get access to land and properties that might otherwise not be available to them, and we're able to get that through the courts, clean up the taxes, get it back to productive use. How our team helps the Business Growth Services Unit is that we advise, connect, and educate. So we provide one-on-one consultations to our business owners. We connect them to valuable resources like lending institutions, a network of consultants that we work with to really dive deep into your business needs and try to get you the help that you need to grow. We provide business education. So we do seminars like this, panel discussions, webinars, a number of different conferences throughout the year to really try to get people connected and also connected to the resources that they need. So it's about connecting you all to each other, but also to the resources that we grow. We do our work through 4 pillars of work, okay? So first we have our special programs. This relates to programs that we design in response to your need. So that QR code that you took, over the year, I will analyze and see 60% of our folks are saying they need help with access to capital. 80% are saying they need help with this. Another 50% are saying they need help with that. We'll actually take the dollars that we have that were granted to create programming that address those needs. 2 of the programs that we've done include our tax pro assistance program. So we'll actually do your taxes and your financial statement preparation at very low cost. We subsidize the rest of that amount. So business owners can get access to financial statements and tax prep for $500, or they can do their tax returns for $350, and we subsidize the rest of the cost. Shop Southland is a pilot program now, it's still in pilot stages, but we were able to take 2 cohorts of 5 entrepreneurs in each cohort, get them influencer marketing, help them with their Google optimization, their social media pages, and really try to help drive traffic to their brick and mortar locations. So it's in a pilot stage now because we want to see if the results of that warrant us keeping that moving forward, and also figuring out if there's a cost that we would need to attach to the program for people to participate, because it is costly to get those influencer marketers out, but it was pretty successful, so we look forward to doing that more this year. We do a ton of networking events. We do Coffee Connections, which is a really great event. We do that maybe every 3 or 4 months. Just come in, have a cup of coffee, chat with people that are in business so that you can build those connections. We also do events like this where we give you time to network with one another. And our tailored expert consulting program. So we have a team of relationship managers that will work with you one-on-one to be able to help you along your business journey. My colleague Antoine is actually going to take over from here and tell you a little bit more about that.
Hi guys, my name is Antoine Scott. I'm a relationship manager with Southland Development Authority, and the one-on-one tailored consulting is my sweet space. This is the beef of our organization, part of our organization, the Business Growth Services. So in this group, we're meeting with entrepreneurs that are actively operating as an entrepreneur or entrepreneur in spirit or heart. So we are talking with communities, individuals in the community, engaging them in ideation, concept design, operational efficiency, expansion, licensing, certifications, and on to exit. We can probably say that 100% of the businesses that we work with do see a positive impact in their business, whether that's from increased marketing, best practices, understanding their P&Ls better so they have better margins. These are just a few testimonial success stories that we have of some of the small businesses that we work with in the Southland. Business education. This is something that we have ongoing monthly. This comes in the form of webinars or actually in-person events. We're covering certain things like we have a series called CFO, Think Like a CFO. So in that series, you're meeting with a consultant and other business owners, thinking through your numbers, we're getting you to think like a CFO, run your business like a successful CFO, and then also the unleashing entrepreneurial leadership. As an entrepreneur, you do find yourself in leadership positions, whether you're managing consultants, managing employees, or just managing the day-to-day life of working in business. Government contracting. This is a relatively new part of our program, the APEX program, where similar to our business growth services, you do meet one-on-one with a consultant, and they're talking you through small business certifications, bid matching, mentor proteges, contract and administration, just to name a few services. Metal stuff. I'm going to pass this back over to Drew.
Thank you, Antoine. So a little bit on the government contracting. If you have done successful business in the private market for maybe more than 2 years, you probably have some past performance to start thinking about adding government contracting as a revenue stream. The government buys everything. It's the largest human organization on the planet. The federal government is. Not so much now, but hopefully, the contracts still keep coming. But local government is really important too. So think public libraries, right? Someone needs to do the landscaping for those properties. So there might be an opportunity for your business to explore how to enter into that space, right? To have a stable revenue stream. The Metals Hub works side by side with the APEX program in that we work with a consortium of metals manufacturers throughout the Southland region to really team up for impact, meaning that they may be able to respond by themselves to a request for qualification so that they can do that work for an original equipment manufacturer or government buyer, or they can team up with each other to respond to the needs of that buyer. We also work with businesses that can support the metals manufacturers, right? They need other services too, so it's always important for us to stay in contact with businesses because we never know which business is going to need each other. We facilitate many conversations to be able to get folks to work with each other. And that is actually it for us. I'll go ahead and bring Antoine back up. Antoine's really going to be the MC tonight and helping folks learn more about the guests that we have today. So feel free to take a snapshot of that. Feel free to take a snapshot of this. And our speakers, if you have a presentation, we'll help you get it set up. Okay?
All right, guys, we have some dynamic speakers that are going to be presented for you today. We have 4 individuals that bring almost combined 100 years of experience in economic development. So I think you're going to walk away with a lot of gems and some really good takeaways. So we have Cesar Suarez, serves as the economic director for the city of Harvey. He's worked in this field of economic development for 25 years. He's played key roles in the progress of multiple communities across 3 states. He's an avid reader and has a heart for community and those in need. We have Maurice Williams. Maurice has over 30 years in economic development. He's played key roles in closing multi-million-dollar and multi-million square foot commercial and retail deals, including Amazon fulfillment centers, Walmart superstores, and Planet Fitness, to name a few. Maurice is a student business manager, specializes in syndicated financing. David Sparks, a real estate developer, with a mission to rebuild working class communities. He's the co-founder of DAS Home Restoration. They serve as general contractors for unique projects. He's a graduate of HF, home with Flossmoor. He served in the Air Force. And Dave is also an avid reader and a martial artist. Greg Lees, relationship manager for Huntington Bay, bringing over 16 years in the commercial and retail space. He serves on the board of ALSA Industrial Association. Calumet area, industrial commission, and choose DuPage. Guys, if I can just have you come up to the stage.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad you're here. I'm excited about talking about a topic I always get excited about. And, oops, right button. Let's see if that works. I'm showing you this picture because I think it represents a lot about the topic today. It's about really development. And when I look at this picture, I see the kind of thing that it took to win. As you can see, do you all know who that is? Usain Bolt, right? Cool dude, very charismatic. So the London Olympics in 2012, they broke a world record, 36.84 seconds. They astounded, broke the record and were successful. But in that effort, it took 4 people. It's the 4x100 meters race. And it took a lot of team to make that happen, a lot of work, precision, and also passing that baton from one to another. And I wanted to say with you, much of what we're going to be talking about, it really is involved putting together a good team. So, my presentation is moving your project forward. You all have a project perhaps, and the goal is to move it forward, and that's basically the presentation I'm going to make, and hopefully it resonates with all of you. So I talk about doing it the right way, and that is, as you can see, is having the right team, the right project, the right location, and the right approvals, which is where I'm going to talk about mostly, and also the right improvements. Again, you're looking to build something, right? You have a property in mind. How do you go about it? This is the way of moving your project forward. So let's talk about engaging the right team. If I went around and asked everyone about you, how would you start? Who would you call to start this project of yours? And I say there's a lot of people that you would have to call, right? And you can imagine these characters represent some of the idea man, the guy who makes it work, the guy who encourages you, the one who gets you a target, and so on. But in my work, in my line of work, I talk to a lot of people. I say, don't really miss out on these 4 people that I think are really important. And they are here today. So we have our bankers here, right? Who raise hands on the bankers? There you go. Bankers are really important. It's hard to move forward without money. Okay? Then we have also Chamber of Commerce. Is anybody in the Chamber of Commerce here? And the reason why I mention them is people are connected. People who are bankers, Chambers of Commerce, and EDCs. Okay, SDA, raise your hand. You're the Economic Development Corporation. These people are also very connected. Can help you in many ways because they know people. And of course, you got to go to the city. You got to get approval. So get to know and talk to. So don't do anything. Don't lease a property. Don't build a property until you at least talk to the city because it may not be allowed. Okay? I can't tell you how many times someone comes up in an office and says, I just leased this place, and then we find out it's not a permitted use. Wah, 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 wah. Bad deal, bad deal. And they already put a down payment, or they can't get the money back from the landlord. It's really sad that it happens. So really, don't move, don't make an action, don't buy, don't lease until you talk to the city. At least. But talk to these other people as well. All right, how about defining the right project? As you can see here, the key thing is be specific. It's really tough to help somebody who doesn't know what they're wanting to do. So I'm going to kind of lead you through a process of how to become specific with your project. All right, so one thing is development types. For some of you are redevelopers. Anyone who wants to be a redeveloper in here? A building, take it, and move it forward? Excellent. And you also have new construction, a much tougher job, a bigger task, obviously, to do new construction. So be specific. What about property type? You have 3 up there, and there's also mixed use included. And even within each category, there's specific things that people are, it's what I call their business model. Like I'm working with a guy right now on residential. He just wants to do 10 apartment units or more. That's his sweet spot. So how do we work with him? And you might have your sweet spot. Maybe it's single family homes. Maybe it's 2 units and so on. But be specific about, again, what property type are you looking to target for your project. Again, be specific. Size and dimensions. So we want to hear the acres that you're looking for, the square foot that you want to put your business in, the height of your building, the number of stories. These are all very important to be specific about size and dimensions. And then, I don't want to go through these. We have the bankers who may talk about this. We talk about money. What is it going to cost? Where is it going to come from? Which is sources and uses of funds. Very important to have that. But above all, if I had to give you a good recommendation, is I could fill in the blanks. You go through each one and just go through the exercise and fill in that blank. And I just did that for you just as a sort of example. I want to redevelop a single-family home of 1,200 square feet on a city-owned lot. I want to flip it, and I have $100,000. I want to apply for this project, of which 75 is my own, 20,000 is my own money, 75 from the bank, right, bankers? Yeah, and then also 5,000 for others. And of course, I want to do it in 6 months. This is how specific you can get if you want. Shoot and try to be specific. Okay. Next thing, the right location. All right, you have an idea, you know what you're capable of doing. Now, this is really, could be a very tough proposition, is finding a location, because it's like almost a needle in a haystack, but not really. At least people that work ways around that, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So where do you look for property? Talk to your broker, attorney, the people, again, the city, economic development corporations, chambers of commerce. You can talk to all of them, and there are good resources. And they may know property that you might want to redevelop. I don't know. You gotta ask, right? Well, right below here, there are 3 different websites that sell property, and they're probably the best rate or price you can get. People I talk to buying a property in Harvey for $30,000 to $50,000 and redeveloping it, you can get a property through the city for about $5,000 or $10,000 and get far ahead with that. Okay, so there is benefits of working with city government and working with the Southland Development Authority or the Cook County to buy property from those organizations. They have property available. Now, what about Harvey? If you wanted to buy, look and find a property in Harvey, what do you do? Number 1, we have a website. You go to that website, you just type in or look for the word city properties, as you can see there. When you do that, there'll be some resources for you. One would be, and I love this, is having a map. And in this map, you can see red and blue pins. You can click on it and up comes a description, a picture of the project, property, and so forth. And it gets you, you don't even have to drive. I mean, you just use this map and follow along and actually make a game out of it and find your property. We also, if you're into lists, we have 2 lists there, and you can go navigate by address, list it and find, hey, maybe you know where your, let's say, a relative lives and want a house right next door. You can look up the address and find it like that. And also we have a process, a 7-step process. Everything's online, go to it, and hopefully you can find a project to redevelop it. But finding it is one part of it, but this other point is really important. It's called controlling your property. And I'm not getting into the details, but what I've seen people do is they focus on one property and do all kinds of homework, and later find out, guess what? Somebody else already took it, has it, it's been sold, it's been leased. So don't do too much homework until you know you can lock it in. And the way to do that is through these instruments, letter of intent, option agreements, redevelopment agreements, and so on. That's how you then would get, they call that an option to purchase, an option to lease, and so on. It means you're actually putting in writing your intent. And when you do that, we will give you, 3 months, 6 months, somebody will say, we'll give you this much to do your due diligence, figure everything out. And then when you do all your homework, you say, I want to buy it, you don't have to worry about someone else coming in and grabbing that property. Okay? So it's really important about not only finding it, but also you need to find ways of controlling it so that it doesn't slip away from your hands. All right. Now this is where the city gets in there really big time, getting the approvals. Right? You can see there's a lot of those pillars there, a lot of work involved. You got permits, codes, insurance, and licenses to be involved with. Okay? So there's basically 2 steps, one dealing with land and one dealing with building. I won't deal much with the building, but I'm going to focus more on, and this is where it gets, I don't know if I can say more complicated, but not many people are familiar with zoning. And this is where people get tripped up. And so let me briefly go through that. Okay, the worst word is code or municipal code. And in the code, most cities have online, you can look up, and we have one here, the zoning code, and you can look if you want. You can also ask a city administrator, city staffer to help you. But that code is very important because it tells you the following thing, which I'm going to show you, is the table. You have a magical table, and this tells you this use is listed in our Harvey code, and it's going to say a P, an S, or an N, permitted, not permitted, or special use. All right, so let me give you a little quiz here. Can I build a duplex in a residential 1 zone district? No, that's what this table tells you. Can I put a 4-plex in an R2 zone? Or no. Can I do it in an RN, which is multiple residential? The answer is permitted. Right? Now that's a little bit of a green light. Go forward. The table tells you that you can do certain things, but it also tells you you can't do others. Like, can you put a gasoline sales anywhere in the city? According to this, only in the transit-oriented development. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a no. It actually seems like being a no before, kind of. All right, so that is challenging. Now, another thing I want to say about code, it's been done. I don't know, maybe 1982 for this code, and so it's old, and so new things come up, and you have to revise, adjust, amend it. We do. But it takes a long time. So if you don't see your business tight up there, you can ask for certain things, and I'll get into that next. So then there's the map. I forgot to mention. We talked about the code, what's allowed, and then you can see the maps. R2 zone, medical institution, highway commercial, heavy manufacturing, light manufacturing, and so forth. And so the map helps you if you want to locate a specific spot. There's where the code is. And so you go and match up the code with the table, and now you've got yourself moving along pretty well. So now here's the process. The first thing you do, wherever you're leasing or buying, looking to develop and exploring, the first thing suggested in a city is getting a zoning clearance. And that whole process we just went through, that's what I find out. I go through and I give that individual, that developer, that party who wants to buy some property. And what I do is basically say, I give a zoning certificate and say, you are allowed to build that duplex in an R2 zone. I just give you permission. It's formal, it's certified, and that's good. But let's just say that it's not. Now, by the way, it takes about 2 to 7 days, depending on how busy I am. Maybe not that long. But anyway, if not, something that takes 60 to 90 days is trying to work your way around the zoning code. And that is this whole process of special use permits, text amendments, and I'm not going to go into all that detail. But I'm just saying this is more involved and more engaged. You have to go to public hearings. You got to go and get recommendations by staff, the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as the City Council to make it final. And so we do have a lot of special use permits. If you're an auto-related business, it's going to go a special use permit right away. And so that's just the nature of working with businesses and making sure that all things are prepared and set right with the code. Okay, and the process for a building permit, you're probably more familiar with this, because anyone who's doing construction, you go and get a building permit. This is from and what I just covered just in the previous slides is at step 1, and that's all about the land, and the rest is more about the building. And so you submit your building permit application, and the very goal, everybody loves to hear the word certificate of occupancy. Bankers love it because now we know that we can get rent and pay the loan off that the bank provided. So a certificate of occupancy is a real big target. And then as far as your construction project, it goes from the issuance to passing. When they check what you've constructed, it passes, and the city gives you a certificate of occupancy. So that's kind of what is the building permit process. And then, of course, the last thing about making the right improvements. And what we have is, I mentioned there's a municipal code, and often the municipal code says, check these other codes that we reference. I'm giving it to you all here. I'm not trying to scare anybody here. There's a lot of lists here. I mean, going through this is trying to interpret the Old Testament prophets. It's a difficult thing to do, right? So what I would say is basically work with the city, put in your building permit, and we'll be checking these things. That's what we do. We check them, we inspect it, and we say, oh no, that's you shouldn't have put that receptacle. It's too low. We've got to bring it up a bit. Okay? And people who are contractors and licensed and certified, they know these things. Okay? Anybody in contracting work, electrical, and okay, good. You guys know you got to follow code. If you don't, the inspector comes to the building and says, oh, that's wrong. It's got to be redone, and it costs money to redo something. You won't get that issuance of the permit. And so here we have residential development. I'm not going into it, but basically well planned. Here's a commercial development. It has all this detail in it about in and outs, square footage, and so forth. And so just lastly, I say run your project and do it the right way. Again, the right team, the right project, the right location, the right approvals, and the right improvements.
Thank you, Caesar. Let's get Caesar another round of applause, please. One thing I did forget to mention is that we will have time for question and answer at the end of this talk. So if you do have some questions, please jot them in your phone, write them down. We will have some time to address those. Next up, we have Greg East from Southland Bank.
Yes, thank you. Got it. It's tough to follow Caesar and Manny, right? Because good speakers. So I'll try to do my best. One, I would say kudos coming out here. Just learning about all the different resources that are available. Southland Development Authority, these are fantastic. Not only in what we're doing here with the real estate, but also just helping grow your business and plan your business, and we partner with them on many things. We're actually just at today, and one of the things we discussed is the people that come out are usually the ones that need the least amount of help. It's guys that are not coming out that are trying to figure out how to get by and learn things. So that's thank you. Good for you for coming out. So when we're looking at commercial real estate, there's two concepts. There's residential, and there's going to be commercial, right? Commercial development. Now, if you got a sense of like most people interested in commercial type planning or residential type planning, multifamily or house flipping, right? That's where they're underwritten differently, right? So it's kind of hard to put together, explain everything in one. One process, right? They're going to go through process. I think the next thing I would say is, are you going to ground up, or are you going to look at refurbishing? I can tell you, from a banker, it's from a bank standpoint, I have to do it myself. Buying an existing property and refurbishing it is going to be much easier than ground up construction. now you're just looking at probably codes, right, as opposed to, you know, if you have to like dig a hole in the ground and there's just a lot more uncertainty, building prices, how are tariffs gonna affect the cost of plastics or the woods or nails. So I would say that. So I'm with Huntington, right, we're more conventional banking, right, and then what I would do, oftentimes, you know, is look at, is evaluate, right, is this something that's gonna fit our role? It's something that's gonna fit a Huntington role, or just any conventional bank, Huntington, Chase, PNC, Bank of America, all these, you know, more conventional banks. Right, we typically are looking for, you know, somebody that's had some experience, been in business for a while, and so then that's when I partner directly, right, with someone like Maurice, right, but we would then reach out to you if it was something, right, that they could do in this case. An advantage of working with us is right, our pricing is probably a little bit more competitive. That's probably going to be the main thing, is right, your pricing. If we were looking, right, so is there any questions on that at all? Anything? Bueller? No, that's good. So if we're doing construction, and recently, correct me if I'm wrong, right, and so, I mean, what we're gonna look at from a bank standpoint is gonna depend on how much money you're looking for and to what extent. You know, if it's like doing siding, doing re-roofing, that's pretty easy, right? Give some invoice, we can run off that. But if it's more extensive, right, you're gutting it, putting in electricity, putting in new lights, maybe putting up a new roof, you're gonna add a crane, then we start looking at, we're gonna have to have budgets, right? We're gonna have to come up with a budget. There might need to be some monitoring in place. We're going to need to know the, you know, the agreements, right, between yourself and the contractors. So I can write some notes here, kind of how that process will look. Surveys, right? We have to have a survey. Complete set of construction drawings, detailed line items of the construction project. We're going to want to know the general contractor's fixed price, zoning approval, kind of got into some of that. We're going to need to see building permit. Something else is environmental, right? Make sure that, depending on what was there before, you know, was it a laundry, a dry cleaners? They used a lot of chemicals, and not now, but, you know, 70s, 80s, 60s, and so you might, unbeknownst, have an environmental issue, right? So it's always good to get a hold of one of those in the front. Here's a real life story. Had a client that went, bought a building, and they thought they were getting a steal on this building. They bought it with cash, and then came to the bank, and they wanted to do the bill out. And no problem, this looks great, financials were good, but we had to do environmental. And it was ever there, people were just basically dumping barrels of things into the ground. And now that's his responsibility. Unfortunately, it's appealed to not the people that actually created the issue. The second thing that can happen is, you know, if there's a gas station or different companies that maybe had chemicals and things in the ground, again, this stuff would have happened a long time ago. But, you know, if we're buying old buildings and established communities or old communities like anywhere in Chicagoland or, right, or Harvey, there could have been a tube or an underground tank that leaked. And then if that comes over your property, right, the bank's gonna want to know about it. The person that created the leak in that case should be responsible for it. But nonetheless, you want to be aware of it up front and try to get that remediated prior to, right, you actually owning that piece of property, so it doesn't become your responsibility. And then some utilities, certificate, you know, and then insurances, right? We're going to have some insurances in place. Other things I think to consider are taxes, right? What are those taxes going to be? And then, I think those are environmental taxes, gonna be a big one. And then again, get permission from the city. Like, one more example, right, is, this was a trucking company, and what was there before was a company that had a bunch of trucks, so he just assumed he could do his trucking company in there. And he paid for surveys, and he had put a tent, he started doing all these things that you were talking about before, what Caesar was talking about before, and the city said, we don't want a trucking company. So that was thousands and thousands of dollars that he put into that. So, not that I'm an expert, but I did kind of warn us. I think you better check this before we start going down that road. So you definitely want to make sure that the city is on board with your project before you start, before anybody starts doing surveys or hiring architects to build out plans. That would be my 2 cents. Right, Grace?
Correct. It's final, correct with the information. Should I just keep?
That's certainly, you know, what I didn't mean, but whatever you want to do. Okay.
So, couple questions really. One is, when do you get asked for at the loan at what stage? So let's say it's a $1 million renovation project or $1 million new construction project. At what point does the small business owner / developer have to go to you for the loan? And then secondly, what kind of equity contribution or down payment are you looking for? And I know that ratio may fluctuate, you know, so talk a little bit about that.
So depending on the loan type, right? So kind of a rule of thumb is typically we would lend 80% loan to value on the project. 20% would have to come from other sources, whether that's for yourself, or say you're buying a property and it's a motivated seller, you might do a seller's note on the side. About, hey, I'll do 10% of this, you come up with 10%, that could be our 20. It's something like a 20% down payment, or 20% equity in a piece of real estate. Depending on if it's a startup or if it seems a little riskier, we might ask for 30% down payment. And then when do you get involved? When do you get a bank involved? So find the property, right? Engage whoever it is that's selling it, get an idea of what they're asking for as far as the expense goes, how much it's going to cost. Get an idea of have a business plan that you want to do. You probably have that even before you start moving the property. Right? Because what the bank is going to want to know is, I would engage as soon as possible, right? It never hurts, but a letter of intent, right? That's what we're going to want to see, the contract, the sales agreement. Anytime you build a sales agreement, get an attorney and have outs in there, right? And those outs can be, if I cannot get a loan from the bank, because you probably are going to have to give these people earnest money, then I get my earnest money back, right? If there's an environmental issue, I get my money back. If this thing doesn't appraise out to where we think it should go, I get my money back. Right? That's going to be important in your sales contract. So the sales contract should just basically be, we're going to agree on this price, and I can basically pull out of it anytime I can. Right? You can even put in there an interest rate. If the bank approves me, they don't give me an interest rate of, I've thrown an aggressive interest rate, 5.5%, then it gives me a right to get out of it. You know, the seller on the other hand might say, hey, look, how serious are you? But nonetheless, I would say engage is pretty good. If you could. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. A couple things we got is building the right team, getting your banker, shameless plug for SDA. If you do not have a business plan, we do that. Talk to us. We help you build that. We use a system called LivePlan. We leverage AI. It's super simple, super approachable. We get a couple questions from you, and then from there, boom, we can turn around a business plan within about a week. So please use us, leverage us for some of those things. Next up, questions about Wood. Next up, we have Dave.
Good evening, everybody. I'm David Sparks, general contractor, developer, local area. While he's up, I already got that up quick. All right, quick poll. How many people here have done a flip or any type of real estate project on real estate, anything like that? Yeah, okay, a lot of folks, okay. So, what I want to do is I want to kind of, a lot of what I talk about, piggyback off of what these gentlemen already discussed here, and kind of go into a little bit of a deeper dive to some aspects of the development process. So to start with, so we have a lot of people already that have done properties before, so that's good. So to kind of piggyback off what Caesar talked about, first thing is we want to talk about finding deals, right? So I'm gonna give you guys the keys to the kingdom here. So this is actually a database that I built over time. I didn't build the database, I kind of internally constructed it to the needs of what we do, just to be clear on that. But here is one of the lists that I follow. This is just a list of different sites that you guys can go and find deals. Of course, we got the SDA here, Southland Development Authority, South Suburban Land Bank Authority, where they have properties. But then, I'm sure you guys have also heard of the Cook County Land Bank Authority. Right? So that's another organization that does the same thing as South Suburban does. We have other spots like the Cook County Sheriff auctions. We have different Facebook groups that have properties for sale. We got Department of Insurance, Hudson and Marshall. These are auction websites. BootNet, Exxon, and then some of these are essentially MLS open market websites. But really, what I want to showcase for you guys here and bringing this up is, to start with, you want to have a list or a database that you have that you can manage. And it doesn't have to be something like this. It can just be, a notebook. It could be an Excel sheet, anything that keeps yourself organized, so that you have a process for which you can go. When I first started out, my routine was every morning get up and run this list, check. Still do that from time to time, but now after time you build up, relationships and whatnot, so the deals start coming to you, and you don't have to do as much of the legwork, but it's still always good to have this as a foundation. So that's one thing. So finding deals and opportunities. One thing that I mentioned with a lot of these sites, a lot of these different places, is that some places have to buy cash. So like if you go to an auction downtown, sometimes even auction.com, the sheriff sales, etc., these properties, you have to have cash, so you have to keep that in mind. Other sources can come with, you can engage your lender bank to start off to acquire a property, and so that way you don't necessarily have to have the cash to acquire on the table. Since the majority of the audience has done a property or owns properties, then I'm sure you guys are kind of familiar with at least some of that process of how to engage, cash buying versus financing, and at least to get started with that. The next thing is to go further into that with financing. So the technical term, we call that the capital stack, right? So Huntington Bank, and they are, a traditional mortgage lender, but you have what we call hard money lenders, which I'm sure you guys have heard of before. You have private money, so if you got uncle, aunts, friends, etc., that have a little bit of money that are willing to invest, you can pool capital, pool resources together to fund deals with that. You can leverage against a 401k, an IRA. You can do a home equity and HELOCs. So these are all different sources or methods for which you can use to finance a property. And your methodology and how you go about doing that is just going to depend on the deal and what sort of project you're looking to get into. Anybody have questions on that so far? No? All right.
continue. Next thing will be operations and execution. So Caesar talked about finding a good team. So for those of you who have done property before, have you guys hired folks? You do work yourselves? It kind of just depends on your skill set and what you're looking or what you have the ability to do. But one thing I will say unequivocally is that development and or flipping properties is not a passive endeavor. It just is not. So a lot of times you see, whether it be from TV shows or hearsay, we did this, we flipped this property, we made this kind of money. You can, and it does happen from time to time in terms of those outsized large profits, et cetera. At the end of the day, that's all we are here for. Of course, we want to develop beautiful properties, develop our communities, but we also want to make money, right? So, but I'm here to tell you that the reality of it is that it's a hands-on game. Passive comes when you have an income-producing property that you have tenants in, or that you have some sort of other recurring revenue stream tied to that property. That's when real estate becomes passive. So when you're flipping property, when you're building, when you're developing, it's hands-on. And so if you're not prepared to be hands-on in some sort of way, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the construction work. If you're niche, if you have a finance background, you're good with numbers, and you're good with spreadsheet, there's your value add right there. You can figure out ways to manage the numbers, manage the finances, and the flow of the capital, such that you create an efficient process that turns you profitable. Obviously, at the end of the day, construction is what eventually what moves the needle. We talk about the 80-20 principle when it comes to investing, or should I say, developing specifically. The more hands-on you are in the process, the better it's going to be for you overall. So when I started out, we started by hiring contractors, but then we quickly evolved into a construction company and a general contractor for ourselves for a whole host of reasons. The main one being that labor costs, material costs, specifically labor, is very expensive. And good labor. If you're doing a project, you want it to be done right, you have to pay folks, and you have to pay them a good wage, and cheaper is not always better, right? So if you get involved in a project, and it might be enticing, nothing against the folks at Home Depot, but if you pick up somebody at Home Depot, you're going to get what you're going to get. So you want to get reputable folks, licensed folks, people that are good, people that have a strong track record, that are also truthful, honorable, so that the last thing you want is disputes, lien waivers over work not completed, people do work, don't show up. All of those things are very important, and that's again why you want to be very hands-on in development projects when you're doing those sorts of heavy construction projects. And then I guess specifically also, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, when we talk about real estate development, Caesar mentioned having a plan, right? So you want to understand what it is that you are doing, what's your niche. There's a lot of opportunity out here, and if you chase every opportunity, everything that looks good isn't always good, right? So you really want to have a narrow focus as to what type of properties, what type of deals you're looking for, and really laser in on that, and that's how you get good, and that's how you eventually, over time, are able to create a process that eventually gives you a profitable return. So, for example, for me, the core of our business is single-family heavy rehabs. So I'm always looking for value-add opportunities. If a project, even if it appears to be a good deal on its face, if the improvement is all you can do is just paint, change a couple of cabinets out, and do very simple stuff, I may or may not be interested in that. Only because, and the main reason is because where's the true value add? You're more of a speculator at that point if you're not actually changing something, if you're not actually improving the property. So that is not always the case, but in most cases it is. And so for us, we like properties that are, you take Harvey, Markham, where you have a lot of opportunity to take a property in its existing condition, develop it, rebuild it, change floor plans. Just to give you an example, if any property around here for us that is 900 square feet or bigger, I can automatically make it into a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. If it's a 2-bed, 1-bath, if it's a 1-bedroom, it doesn't matter. If it's 1,000 square feet, if it's approximately 35 feet by 40 feet in terms of length width of the entire structure, I can create a floor plan to make a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. The reason why I mention that is because a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom is one of the most profitable selling properties you can put forth. It has 2 bathrooms, it's a good starter home, and it allows for it's the most marketable type of property. So, but obviously when you get into that then creates architect plans, that create you need plumbers, you want rough plumbing, rough electric to do those types of things. But that's where the real value creation is going to come in. Again, so it's important to have a focus specifically on what it is that you want to do and to try to understand that you want to have a plan to change or increase the value of the property in some shape, form, or format that cannot be disputed, because a lot of times what happens is that when you do cosmetic rehabs and an appraiser comes out, let's say, they're looking at the property for what it is, apples to apples, right? They don't necessarily care that the paint is pretty, that your tile is pretty, and all these other things that you did, even though you put your heart and soul into the property. They're looking at what is this building square footage, what is the utility of this building, how many bedrooms does it have, how many bathrooms does it have, and what is the condition of the mechanicals. You may try to say, oh, this furnace is old and I can leave it in here, and sometimes that works, but obviously having a new furnace with mechanicals and plumbing is going to be objectively more valuable than not, right? So these are the things you want to think about when you're trying to create value when you're doing these sorts of projects. And then the last thing, of course, is your sales and exit strategy. So this all ties in together, right? Knowing your market. Certain markets, a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom might be the popular thing in the area, and you have a community that you have a lot of people that are interested in starter homes at a lower cost, and that might be the most profitable venture to go towards. So you really want to know the market that you're invested in, so that you can properly come up with a plan about how you want to structure it and the type of value add you want to perform on that property. And then what happens when you if let's say the property doesn't sell, you have to have an idea of, okay, we can put this property on the market and we have 3 months to sell. If we don't sell in 3 months, then what, right? Because if you have a mortgage on the house, you still got to pay that mortgage. The lender's going to, if it's one of those, if it's like a 12-month construction project and that 12 months comes due, you got that balloon note, you got to pay it, right? So what do you do then? Maybe I'm going to refinance and put a tenant in it. Maybe we're going to do some type of other play with the property, but you have to have an idea of, you have to have multiple exit strategies on the back end once the project is complete for what you want to do in the event that their initial plan doesn't go your way. So that's very important. Any questions so far on that? Okay. The last thing I want to do is I want to go through real quick just to kind of show you again, and this is kind of my way of doing things, but again, everybody is different in terms of how they manage and view their projects. But I wanted to go through is one of the projects we just finished up. I just want to show you just kind of a way to conceptualize how to set up your finances and how you manage costs. So here's just an example of one project that we finished recently. And the way I kind of structure it is I have, number one, I'm always tracking the overall status of the property just so I can have an idea of everything that's going on in the property. And so we go to do a walkthrough, we're there, we're looking through, we're saying, okay, we got foundations done, rough framing's done, rough plumbing, now we got inspections, now we got what, So we have to have a list, right, of everything, the entire process of what you expect to be done in the house from start to finish. So that way you can have an idea and a path and a process. And this should really be the same for every project. So once you create your specific path and your specific flow, it shouldn't change. There will be obviously specific nuances with each project. But for the most part, this is a boilerplate type of structure that you'll be able to use. And then next you have your expenses, right? So again, this is the way over time that I like to structure our expense management, but you can have different things. So I like to break my projects down by materials, right? So that I can go back and look and compare. Okay, so at this house we spent $2,700 on appliances, but on this other project we ended up spending $3,200. Well, why is that? So we want to take a look and see what was the difference is. Maybe it's tariffs, maybe it's this store had a sale, whatever the reason may be, right? So we want to be able to track our projects as we go along. We want to be able to look back and reference things so that we know, what we spent. And just going down, just to kind of briefly show just the different line items that go into a different project, different costs. This is kind of all, most of the stuff is obviously a little self-explanatory: flooring, landscaping, insulation, lumber costs, which continues on. It's been much longer here, but lumber's going up, so that's always something you want to keep an eye on. Plumbing fixtures, miscellaneous materials, roofing. All these things you want to be as detailed as possible. Again, it doesn't have to be something like this. It could be just an Excel spreadsheet. It could be on a notebook, but you really want to track these details so that you know where you stand at. And then I guess a couple of other things, just little anecdotes I like to share regarding some things I heard this gentleman mention. Real world example, we bought a group of properties from the Cook County Land Bank Authority. Got a good deal of like 5,000 apiece for these properties, right? But something that happened with us is once we got to the finish line, we were ready to get the properties deeded with the county. Now it's time to go to the city and get the transfer stamps, right? Well, one of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're acquiring properties is that every city, every municipality has their different rules about how they approach development in their city. So we ended up getting stuck with water bills, grass cutting bills, and all these additional fees and fines that some cities aren't willing to waive. So that's just one thing, a real world example to keep in mind, similar to what this gentleman had mentioned before about environmental issues, certain stuff like that. That's going to be probably the most common thing you guys are going to run into when acquiring properties around here. So you really want to be out in front and reach out to Caesar, somebody like Caesar or your city administrator to talk about, hey, what's out here on these properties. You can submit a FOIA request to get all the information on these properties. And hopefully, in our case, the city was able to work with us a little bit, but it was still a pretty hefty check we had to cut for all those properties. And, is a grass cut worth $300? Probably not, but it is what it is. And that's the kind of stuff you'll see, grass cut, $300, more than $1,000. Okay. But these are the things that are out there. These are the things that you might run into. So those are some things to keep in mind, especially when acquiring properties that are abandoned, vacant specifically. And then another thing, one of my most successful deals came from just walking around in the neighborhood, right? So, you walk around, you see a property that you're interested in, take the address down, you can go on Cook County tax portal, look it up, see who's on title to the property, do a quick search, find out, maybe what their phone number is, what their address is. Sometimes it's listed on the county's website. Go door knock. Hey, I see you got this properties, you're vacant, would you like to sell it? And so sometimes those type of opportunities are pretty good, but then again, you still have to be mindful and you have to do due diligence of what's on the back end. Because if a property is left vacant, there's typically a reason, right? Or there's typically other strings attached behind it. Most of the time it's taxes, and then you have other municipal fines and liens, and the good folks at the Cook County and South Suburban Land Bank SDA, they'll take care of the taxes, but there's some of the other stuff on the back end that you'll have to be aware of. So I think that's pretty much all I have for my presentation. Unless anybody have any questions for me at all.
I have a question for you.
Yes, yes, so we have, I track basically when we, I track our labor basically for each project, based upon how the time my guys spend there. So basically, I'll make an entry note, say I have my crew of 3 guys, they were at this property today, and I kind of break it down by day rate, on their hourly pay. And so that's how I kind of assign the labor to track the cost of the project. And so, and of course, if we have multiple projects going on, maybe one day we'll do it here, and I'll do that, and the next day we'll do it here, and I'll do that in each individual project as we go forward.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, have a plan, build your team, build relationships with your banker, be in contact with your municipality, be hands-on and ready to create value, leverage technology, not only to see what's out there, but also to keep account of your finances, and also organize your project management. Maurice, I'm excited to hear what you got to have.
Yes, sir. Yep. Everyone can hear me, I'm hoping. I am super excited. As I sat here and listened, the first thing came to mind is that I am grateful to be here. Manny gave me a call and said, hey, Maurice, why don't you come and be a part of something exciting with the blueprints for business? I did not expect to see all of you here so diverse, so engaged, and so ready to take in all of this information that we've heard today. So I'm going to bring us home. And you best believe me. First of all, I brought some goodies. Everybody needs a CCLF library. Your cell phone, your iPad, your computer, your glasses, whatever. I hope I brought enough of these. They're on the table over here. Also, everyone needs a CCLF light up pen. Right? You never know if you need to unlock the lock at night or whatever, write something down. So I gotta get rid of these things. No, I'm just kidding. I bring these everywhere I go to speak so that you know we want you to keep us in mind as you do what you do. As a lender in the community development space for over 30 years in the development game, similar to some of our brothers that you heard today, I am super excited about sharing CCLF's legacy and past with you. For over 30 years, we've been a not-for-profit lender in the Chicagoland region. What does that mean? As a CDFI, Community Development Financing Institute, we fill the gaps of financing that's necessary for folks like you who are doing the work in the bedrocks of our communities. I met a young brother here earlier, and a young brother over here, a young sister over here, who are doing it in communities on a regular basis. CDFIs are here to help you along each level of your development processes as you grow into the industry and do what you want to do. What do I mean by that? We lend to real estate development projects as collateral in 4 areas or 4 sectors. Affordable housing development, so if you're doing 1 to 4 unit developments, if you're doing 20 plus unit developments, we will lend you capital to get your project started, your pre-development capital, the real hard to find upfront money that you need to acquire a project. And even before you close on it, during your due diligence period, you may need funds to fund and pay for an environmental study, to pay for a market analysis, to pay a brother like David to come in and help you put together your budget and your numbers and put together the whole technical assistance part that you saw on the screen of each show to help you figure out how your numbers are really going to work, check and balance, et cetera, et cetera. To pay your environmental specialist or your plumber to give you the bid before you even purchase the property. We offer pre-development loans for that, and we are one of the best and largest pre-development lenders in the Chicagoland area. So we do affordable housing developments, we do commercial retail developments, single-use tenants. We fund everything from Chick-fil-A restaurants, Burger King, McDonald's, to a variety of single tenants, but we also fund developers who are renovating and or building new construction construction, strip malls, right? So if that's what you're graduating into, we can assist you with that on the commercial side. We do a host of mixed-use properties as well. CCLF has financed everything from Whole Foods grocery stores in Inglewood, in Chatham, and we've done a lot of things in Pullman. The whole Pullman Park development, we finance a lot of things there. We also finance facilities, community rec facilities, libraries, community centers, municipal centers that are adjunct to a municipal facility. We do those as well. And then we do social enterprises like food co-ops and other mixed-use properties. So we cover the gamut in our lending that we do at CCLF. A typical loan for us is anywhere from $500,000 to $500,000 to $5 million on one project. That's the range of loans that we cover at CCLF. If you need to borrow less than $500,000, typically we work with a number of our lending partners who will provide what we call micro loans. So if you need a loan to start your small business, or if you're moving from one property to try to do 3 properties and you just need to borrow a couple $100,000, then we may refer you to Archer Capital Development or Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives or to Summer Corps or a variety of other lenders that we deal with. So we act as a one-stop shop for any of your real estate needs, but depending on how sophisticated you are, and if you move from one project to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, we're able to assist you in many different ways. The other aspect of CCLF that we offer, once you become a customer, we have an entire technical assistance suite that will help you with all of your development needs. We offer hands-on project readiness workshops similar to this with developers who come in at every stage, and we teach them a lot of the things that David just went over and Caesar just went over, the actual nuts and bolts of development from A to B, A to Z. We offer these workshops and trainings on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, and you can get certified in certain things. You don't have to have a full certification. You can jump into a course, take one every other month at your leisure as well, so that you increase your capacities. When it comes down to making sure you get what you need, a typical way that a CDFI operates is once you put your capital stack together and you find out you need an additional $500,000 or $1 million up to $5 million to start and complete your project, that's when you bring the whole deal to my desk, and I do a pre-underwriting to help you figure out the best way for CCLF to assist you. If you already own the property, then we use your property as collateral for the loan, and then depending on what you need to borrow, if your property collateral value is not enough, then if you're a for-profit, you have to personally guarantee the debt that you're borrowing from CCLF. If you are a not-for-profit borrower, there is no personal guarantee, and your collateral is with the property owner. We can get into all of the underwriting aspects of any deal either after this session or going forward. So any developers who are looking to do affordable housing, commercial, triple net, tenant, or mixed use facilities, if you're doing a rec center, if you're converting a building, maybe an old YMCA into housing, or if you're doing conversion of a elementary school, CPS school into housing or to mixed use, you can come to us for those types of loans. Or if you're doing mixed use or commercial on the first floor, apartments at the top, we do those types of loans. Or if you're doing social enterprises as well, we do a variety of those. If you are converting a building into a co-op grocery store or artist loft building, if you're doing residential artists on the top floors and then the artist space on the first floors, we kind of specialize in that kind of lending as well. CCLF, we do about $40 million of loans a year throughout Chicago, and we cover all 6 counties with our loans. The good thing about us is that your application fees are very low. If you're a for-profit, your application is $250. And then we can lend up to 95, sometimes 100% of value on a deal. So we don't always stop at 80 or 85. That really depends on what the collateral property is and what your experience in the real estate game actually ends up being. We can help you figure out how to leverage other capital to your project. If you're a not-for-profit joint venturing with a for-profit, there's ways to bring equity in on the not-for-profit side so that you have your 10, 20, 15% down payment through the equity of grants and or other subsidies from municipalities, the county, the state, the local government. You can leverage all that money in through your not-for-profit, still get it in your capital stack, and then your joint venture or for-profit partner can put in the hard equity to make the deal work. The other aspect, since we are a lender in this space, we do sometimes offer equity into your deal as well if we have a allocation of new market tax credits. Because we are also a CDE, Community Development Entity, you can leverage new market tax credits into deals. Those deals typically have to be a total development cost north of $10 million in order to make the economics work in that range. We do also offer opportunity zone credits in developments. Those typically are for larger developments, but if your project happens to fall in an opportunity zone, I specialize in all types of syndicated financing, from new market tax credits to low income housing tax credits to historic tax credits, opportunity zone credits, leverage financing. So any type of deal that you may have, I probably have some vein of experience in over my 30, 35 years in the real estate industry, and am more than willing to help you think through it, look through it. But you have some great resources here already that you've heard about. Southland Development Authority. We said it a couple of times tonight. Whenever you're going after financing, the critical part is to have your business plan already fleshed out before you come to the lender. Because one of the litmus tests that we are going to look for is that, one, you have a full comprehensive plan that you have written out and digested and own yourself before you come to us for financing. So you can show us, here's the capital stack of sources and uses for the project itself, but here's also the 10-year operating performance that you've already spread out financially, so you know what the project is going to look like and perform over the next coming 10-year history or future, right? So that's all in your business plan already before you come to me and ask, okay, we got a $3 million project. I've raised the equity through my partnership. I'm putting in my own equity, the 5 or 10% that I need, and then Maurice, we need an extra $1 million to close the gap on the project, so then we can move forward and get to construction, or move forward and go to the second step on the project development. So we're here to help with all of the aspects of your deal from a lender's perspective, and then of course we also do the financing. We do some of the equity investments through the vehicles that I just talked about, and we do a host of technical assistance that kind of wraps around your opportunities. So I'm glad to be here today to share this information with you. Use me as a resource. I have business cards as well, besides some of these other tchotchkes that we brought. Now you got another friend, another support you can lean on. My cell phone number is on the business card that I'll give out. So you got another friend in your development circles that you can lean on with at least 30, 35 years of history in the game, which might complement your success in the industry. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm more glad that you're here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. This is the time that I know you all have been waiting for. Questions. I know we have one over here. Oh, yeah.
I had a question about the roads, because I know the roads are very important. How do we implement that in the cost of our construction, or can we?
About the actual roads,
Yeah.
actual transportation facilities.
Because
think the first thing I have to say is that when you deal with roads, you gotta find out what jurisdiction is it. It could be the state's road, or the city's road, or a county road, that's one. And depending on that, that's the organization you have to go through. And then what they're gonna probably tell you then is you need a civil engineer to really lay that out to improve it. Well, if you're gonna put a new one in, for certain design, but then if there's an improvement, you can probably work through that organization to see who's responsible to really renovate the road if needed. And, you know, sometimes cities say, well, that's part of your development plan, you need to include that. And even though most costs you try to associate are on-site, you gotta be careful, it hasn't been mentioned here, but there's off-site costs of running that water line, sewer line, road. All those things have to be under consideration. We talked about perhaps existing property, but when that property is far distant from existing infrastructure, you bet you're gonna have to have a plan for that. And I wouldn't say expect the city to pay for it. It really depends on the fiscal and economic impact of that project, or whether the city would really come forward with any funds.
Yeah, my comments are going to be similar. Typically, roads come into play when you have a larger footprint project, something that's over 10 acres plus, where it must be situated in a planned development, planned unit development, PUD, PLA, we call them as well. So that's when you're planning on all of the aspects of the development, not just the vertical construction that happens within the 10 acres, for example. So you have to deal with the curbs, the gutters, the streets, the roads, the infrastructure below the roads, the infrastructure above the roads, the actual street lighting, the landscaping and the trees, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that leads up to the phases within the 10 acres, where you may be doing a mixed use within that 10 acres. You may be doing a housing cluster over here, light industrial over here, park and rec over here, right? But all of the roads, all of the transferability between the three types of phases have to be taken under consideration. But if you're doing one-off developments, 2 flat over here, 3 flat over here, 4 flat over here, in a community where the roads need to be improved, to Caesar's point, you gotta understand where the municipality is and who actually owns that road in order to make it work. As a lender, if you come in with a PD application and you're a large developer who's doing the whole 10 acres and everything that comes within it, then we're gonna require the funding and expertise to show yourself first and us how all those improvements are gonna take place before we will fund the individual vertical project within your 10 acres. So that's very much under consideration as you contemplate your overall plan. Excellent question. Yeah.
I appreciate the information that you guys shared. Can you give more information about a scenario where a person would qualify for 100% loan to value?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every now and then, again, not-for-profit lenders, CDFIs, we have more flexibility than a traditional bank like Huntington, Chase, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes we can create pots of funds within CCLF that are flexible to the point where if we blend grant dollars from Chase corporate side with loan dollars from another source of Chase or another bank and blend all those together, we don't necessarily need to have a full 100% return on those monies until they expire. Sometimes those fund pots come together and we put them together probably twice a year within CCLF where we can do a 100% loan to value where as long as you bring other in-kind equity to the table and show us that you've been working on a project for 6 months, for example, and you purchase the property yourself with your own money from your 401k or cash from your family contributors or however you got the property under control, and then you actually went out and did a market analysis with your own money or maybe an environmental study, et cetera, et cetera. All of that is considered equity up front, right, that you've already put into the project. So we wouldn't require you to do that again when you came to us for your financing for your construction and or to take the project to the next level. So it really depends on the circumstance around the actual asset that you need to borrow against, and when we have certain pots of funds kind of circulating throughout CCLF. And that's a case-by-case basis. Typically, our loan-to-values range anywhere from 80 to 90, 95% loan-to-value. So you're looking at as low as 5% or close to zero on most of our deals. Hopefully that's helpful.
Very helpful, thank you.
Thank you. There's one more in the back, the young lady right behind you. Yep, there we go.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so I have a couple questions for a couple people up there. Number one, for Mrs. Suarez. Could you explain how TIF districts play a part in the projects that we spoke of? Because I know that Harvey has 7 TIF districts, so I want to know how does that financing and funding play a part in this? Number two, I'm not sure if the representative from Huntington Bank is still here, but I wanted to know if there was some sort of incentivize or some type of program to go with Huntington Bank for the traditional financing outside of the CDFI that's here, because Huntington Bank doesn't have a branch in Harvey. So I guess, is there some type of specialized program or funding for real estate projects in Harvey and the surrounding areas? I guess I was trying to figure out if that was something that was in place since he was here tonight. And then thirdly, for Mr. Williams, I know CCLF, I'm familiar with you guys with the projects that you do in Woodlawn and so others. So just to confirm that you all do financing outside of the city of Chicago. If so, does that spread to the Southland, entire state of Illinois, or how does that work as far as real estate projects are concerned? Thank you.
Well, let me take on the first one. Is everybody familiar with TIFs? Anyone? Well, Nick worked for a company that did a lot of TIFs. Anyway, I think the broader question is really when someone wants to develop a particular property, and I mentioned go to the city, and what the city should do, and I do, is say, this is not only in a zoning district, but it's in a TIF district, it's in an enterprise zone, it's in a special service area, it's in an opportunity zone, it's a new market tax. There's all these different zones. I call them broadly economic development zones. And each of them are unique, have thresholds, have different benefits, can give a project to pay upfront or when it's completed. Just some are reduction in fees, permit fees, like enterprise zones may be. Some are, there are so many different ways in which the price of your project can be reduced. So TIF is just one of those tools, those economic development tools. There's so many that can be applied. And I guess the common thing is when you talk to the city, ask, what economic development programs or districts are available for my project. Now, having said that, when you really do a single family home, there's not a lot there. But as we talk about larger projects, you have great impacts, fiscal impacts, property tax, sales tax. You can get very creative to reduce the overall cost of the project. So again, the main message is find out all the economic development districts that this location is in, and then see if your project meets the thresholds. And it's not always going to be the case. So don't expect it. But all I can say is the bigger the project, the more likely you're going to receive some kind of incentive from the city. And the county, and the state, and the federal. I mean, the bigger the deal, the bigger the municipality will work with you.
And so one of the things I would encourage you to is what Brother David said earlier. When you contemplate any project, and I saw you had your notebook, which is excellent, do some of that research up front before you get your analysis too far down the line. And TIF, these incentives that Caesar just spoke about are absolutely necessary. The larger the project, the more layered incentives you want to have. And TIF districts are public information, so you can look those up anywhere, and it can be critical for equity funding coming back into your project that then you can leverage for debt from a lender like us. CCLF, we cover all 6 counties, including Cook County. So we go all around south suburbs. We want to do more lending and work in the south suburban region, so it's one of our main focus areas. But the majority of our loans are in the city of Chicago on the south and west sides of the city. That's been our migration history, but we only do loans in Chicagoland in those 6 areas. There's a lot of CDFIs who are multi-state CDFIs. We chose not to be multi-state. We wanted to be hyper-local and do more in the 6-county region around Cook County and go deeper with our loans as opposed to wider, because we felt that makes better fabrics and makes, over the long run, communities stronger when you build stronger fabrics. So any project, real estate project in the 6 counties around Cook County can qualify for CCL funds, but they have to, the project itself has to be in a low to moderate income community exclusive. Yes?
I'm sorry. Could you name the 6 counties?
Yep, if I remember right. So it's Cook County, Lake, McHenry, DuPage, Will, and Kane. There, my man right here. Kane, right. There we go. We got it. Yeah, you can always get our website. Everything's described there, but those are the 6 counties that we lend in.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have nice maps to show you on dots where all the projects are consistent. Yep. Excellent question.
Just add one valuable resource that you talked about. With TIF districts being a public knowledge, a great resource for like local knowledge on incentives is South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association. So if you just Google SSMMA, that's the acronym, like incentive map, they have a great interactive map. You can go find where all the TIF districts are, enterprise zones, opportunity zones, etc.
Excellent resource. Yep, I've worked with SSMMA for years, and they also have another group called CSEDC, and there's a bunch of resource providers here where you guys seem to be savvy enough you can pick up on these things and use them for take you to the next level.
Perfect. Any other questions out there?
This is a question from Mr. Caesar.
Yeah.
Are there any current or future plans for which development in the city of Harvey?
For what kind of development?
Future plans or current plans for future big box development to attract businesses to Harvey? What reason I'm asking is because as a developer, I'm looking to see what the future may hold, as we all are. And I can speak for myself, not everyone else, but I'm a local kid, graduated 94 from Durham High School, so I would love to see the city come back. I've seen it in the rise and the law, and all of that, to the downfall, so to speak, got a little bit worse. But I like to see the city come back, and I like to be a part of that. So if there is something going on, could you speak on it?
Yeah, I appreciate the question because I've been asked and asked this, and to developers, I said, if you're going to be competing with 2 different cities, what city would you select and locate your property? And then the person came to me and said, I need to see 2 things from a city. I need to see a vision that the city has, and we have one as a comprehensive plan that recently was supported by the city and approved by the city council, so we're excited about that. And the second thing is, I need to see urgency. Because a developer, what's really important is, as we talked about here, is timing and de-risking a deal, knowing the pattern and the methodology and the pace and the team and everything that was talked about today, is that because money can be made in many different ways. It can be small projects or large projects, okay? And so it's really about the urgency and then, of course, methodology, and that is we have a game plan for really growing the various locations. So another one is, do you know what's available by way of land? What inventory does the city have available? And that's been a process that we've identified what that is. The zoning shows where the industrial properties are at. And then available land, basically available land and buildings is another thing. And it's also on our website too, to really put those up there. And by having what we know is available, the raw material of land and building, coupled with vision and urgency, I think that's what's going to grow the city.
Thank you, Caesar. Any other questions? I did have one question for you, David. What's the system of a tool that you're using for your software?
Oh, Monday.com.
Monday.com. Caesar, David, Maurice, thank you guys. This information is so again, guys, this is the first of many programs we're going to have around real estate development. Please make sure that you have signed in so that we have your emails so you can stay in the know of the events that we have coming up. Help yourself to some refreshments. We'll be around. SBA members will be around if you have any other questions or want to connect.